I've experienced domestic abuse over the years, and I stayed for many years, and a lot of people just don't understand why a person stays. You may be in that position, or you may want to understand why people stay. Now I'm talking about for both men and women, because men experience domestic abuse as well. In this video, I'm sharing with you some of my experience and sharing about why people actually stay within an abusive relationship. Hi, I am Paula Rose Parrish. Today is Wellness Wednesday. This channel is all about wellness and tips for health and well-being for your mind, body and spirit. So let's jump right in to the issue, a very serious issue of domestic abuse. This is a very serious subject, and it is very difficult for me to share. I've had this channel up for most of this year, and I've been really reluctant to make a video about domestic abuse because it's raw. It's not that it was not very long ago, it was a long time ago, but just the feeling of it is really, really difficult. But I decided that because so many women every day in the UK die, at least 3-4 women every day die in the UK because of domestic abuse, and I live in Wales, and 1 woman every day dies of domestic abuse in Wales, and that's the latest statistics, and it's quite shocking, and it's worse around Christmas time and around holidays time. And if I can share a little bit about my experience and give a little bit of insight to domestic abuse, it may help you if you're finding yourself in an abusive relationship, or if you know somebody who you think might be and you're not sure, and perhaps what I'd be sharing with you will give you a little bit idea of what to look for to see, to ascertain whether a person might be in an abusive relationship, so you can help them. This is going to be one of many videos about domestic abuse. So if this is a subject that interests you and you want to learn a little bit more about, please subscribe and you'll get updates as I post them. So let's get stuck into the reason why women or men stay in an abusive relationship. Well, the first one, I believe, is because the person feels powerless. Now, when you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, whether it's psychological abuse, whether it's abuse of money, or any other form of abuse that thankfully is now being recognized in the law courts as abuse, one thing it strips the person of, no matter what the abuse is their confidence and their identity. You lose your identity, and then you lose your confidence because you just don't know who you are anymore. You're trying to please your abuser, and therefore you give away your power to keep the peace. So they're not going to be angry with you. So everything will be fine, because in an abusive situation, you are the one that is either gaslighted or told directly that you are responsible for the abuse that you are suffering. So therefore, you need to take the responsibility to keep the peace. And in order to doing that, you actually lose who you are. You are very often, you do not share your opinion in case your abuser might be upset. You take on their identity in many forms. You take on what they like, what they want, their desires, their wishes, and you really become them in many respects because you are trying to keep the peace. And so the more amenable and likable and peace-loving you are, then you hope that the less likely they are to abuse you. And of course that doesn't always work, but in some incidents it does. But in the process you lose who you are, you lose your identity. And if you're the mother of young children like I was, it's even worse, because you're trying to bring up some children who you're trying to help them find their way in life, trying to help their identity. And it's really difficult because you don't know who you are anymore. You've lost your confidence. And so you inadvertently pass that on to your children without really realizing it. And very often they can grow up really not knowing who they are, having total lack of self-confidence, and actually seeing situations a little bit differently to what they really are, more in a negative way, because they grew up in such a negative atmosphere. And some children actually go on to be abusers themselves, but we're not talking about that in this video. But that's one of the reasons, and that's one of the main first reasons why I believe, as an experiencer of domestic abuse, I'm not going to say a victim, I'm going to say a survivor and experiencer of domestic abuse. And I've done a Master in Arts and Counselling, Psychotherapy, and coaching, and so I know the science behind that as well. So number one is that the reason why the person stays is because they've totally lost their confidence, because they've totally lost a sense of identity of who they are. The second reason why I believe that either abused men or abused women stay within a relationship, because they truly love the person that is abusing them. And you might say, well, how can a person love that? Because you're in love with the person that you either married or you first met. You're not in love with the abuser, because the abuser wasn't always there. When you first meet these people, they're charming, they're lovely, they can't do enough for you, they shower you with gifts and loves, and sometimes that can go on for months and for years, and they can just be the picture perfect partner. And you say to people, this is too good to be true, you know the saying, and it usually is. But because you become so in love with them, you don't want to think of anything bad about them, because they seem so perfect. You've bought into the idea of what they presented to you. And of course they're very clever. They're very interested in you. I know that with my husband, I said, well, he listens to me. I used to tell people, he actually sits down and listens to me. He asks me what I like and what I dislike. He asked me about me and my feelings. And that went on for a few years. And you know what I didn't know? He was learning about me. And he was matching what I liked, disliked. And so he could go, well, I like that too. Oh yeah, I think that as well. Oh yeah, that's been my experience. So you feel that you can really relate to this person, and you know, you fall for them hook, line and sinker, and with the kindness and with the attentiveness behind all that, you know, they just draw you in. And along the line somewhere, you told them that you like pink roses or carnations, or you like red roses or something like that, and they've picked that up and they've remembered it, and they shower you with these beautiful gifts of the flowers that you love, just not on special occasions but at other times as well. And you think, this is just amazing, absolutely amazing. And as the months and as the years go by, things slowly get changed. slowly gets changed. Things slowly change, particularly when children come along in a relationship, because children are an excuse for the abuse to start. Now, it doesn't start all of a sudden, bang, out of the blue. It is there very, very slowly, but you don't see the red flags. You don't see, which are, in other words, you don't see the warning signs because you're so in love with this person, and you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You say to yourself and say to others perhaps, well, they're just having a bad day. And then a few weeks go by, and they're becoming a little bit abusive, and they're gaslighting you, and they're saying things to you which are very negative. And you think, oh, well, he's not always just having a bad day. He had a bad day at work. He had a fight with somebody, I'm just going to boost his confidence. And so you work your hardest to boost their confidence, to make them feel great, because you are besotted with them. You're absolutely in love with them. So by the time the full-on abuse happens, you are totally hooked. You are totally hooked, hook, line, and sinker. You have bought into the idea of them. And that's all you can see is the person that they were, and you fail to see the person who they really are now. So that's why victims of domestic abuse make excuses for their abusers, and that's why they stay with their abusers, because they're so much in love with them, of the idea of the person, who they once was. And with hope upon hope, and if I work hard enough, you think to yourself, if I work hard enough, if I've changed as a person, if I'm a little bit more calmer, if I'm a little bit more amenable, if I serve them more, if I do what they want more, perhaps they will return to the person they once was, because they blame you for being upset. And if you say to them, well, you're not the person that you used to be, you're just an angry person now. Oh, and they'll turn around and they will say to you, well, that's your fault because you did X, Y, and Z, and you caused me to be like that. And so then, because you've already been stripped of your identity over this very slow drip, drip, drip of being gaslighted, and this a slower form of abuse, and you've been stripped of your confidence, you just buy into whatever they say. So that's the second main reason why I believe that people stay in an abusive relationship, is because they are really in love with their abuser. Another reason why people stay within an abusive relationship is because other people re-victimize them, and this is one thing that kept me staying and stopped me going for help. And because at times I did let my guard down, and I did share with others about what was going on. I got comments like, well, you must have done something pretty bad to upset him. Other comments like, I remember one person said to me, well, you married him, you take the responsibility of it. And comments like that, which are downright cruel, stop you from sharing really what's going on, because you are being re-victimized, because whatever these people's motives are, I put it down to sheer ignorance, and if I can put it down to sheer ignorance, and then it's easy for me to forgive them, forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do, and other people just don't know what to do. And this is one reason for this video, to perhaps equip you to help you understand other people that you may know that may be in abusive relationships, and so you won't re-victimizing them. And the thing is being re-victimized, you feel shame and guilt because you feel that it's your fault. I had a relative say to me, well, you're in this position because you got involved in Christianity. I was converted to Christianity in my 20s, and it completely changed my life. And I was told that if it wasn't for my involvement in my church life and in my faith, this wouldn't happen to me. And so many other comments over the years that kept me in that relationship because I felt shamed. I felt re-victimized. I felt like I perhaps deserved this somehow. And so please, if you have a friend or relative, or you know somebody who you think may be suffering from domestic abuse, be so careful what you say to them and how you say it, because when you are abused, you're fragile. And you're like a little snail. If you've seen little snails and they've got their little antennae, the slightest touch makes them withdraw into their shell, and you just can't get the darn things out. And that's what happens to domestic abuse victims, that just the slightest hint of re-victimization can cause them to go back into their shell forever. And this is why I have known people, I've ministered to women. I've never come across any men. I have helped men in domestic abuse situations, but women I know who have stayed in their relationship all of their lives until they die. And I've sat with women in their 80s, in their 90s, and they have shared with me their terrible relationships they had with their husbands, because they could share it with no one else. And now that they're into their life, they wanted to tell somebody about what they had gone through. And usually the husband had previously died, and so they felt safe in sharing. And so sometimes people go back into their shells and they will never come out. So please, please, please be careful what you say to these people and how you say them. And you can't blame people for staying in the relationship for some of these reasons that I'm sharing with you. And as I said in another video, I will share with you other aspects of domestic abuse from a survivor's point of view and from a counsellor's point of view as well. It is such a huge subject, and it is different for each person who is being abused, but there are certain traits that are very common, certain patterns that are common, and some of them I've already shared with you. I worked with Women's Aid for over a year whilst I was in recovery to domestic abuse, and I learnt there that yes, there is certain patterns that you can actually see as red flags. So if I just want to speak just very quickly before I finish to people who may be in a relationship and you may be thinking, oh, I think this might be heading into an abusive relationship. Well, my advice to you is don't doubt yourself. That's the first thing. Don't doubt yourself. If you're feeling that this relationship, something's not quite right, you're probably dead right. It probably isn't right. No matter what people say to you, other people say to you, oh, but he or she is charming, he's lovely, I've known them for years, and I've never had any problems with them, because that's what happened to me. I knew people that have known a spouse for years and years and years, and they vouched for them, but they didn't know the hidden part of their life. And so don't go on what other people are telling you unless they're telling you that they have been abused by that person as well. go by what you feel inside. If you feel, oh, I'm not sure, well, please run as fast as you can, because I'm telling you, it'll cost you a lot. And if you have children, it'll cost them as well. You know, the peace of God is our rear guard, and if we don't feel that peace and that understanding, it's probably a big red flag, because you won't understand it with your mind. You won't probably see the evidence of it, but you've got this red flag. So draw back, be wise, keep the person at arm's length, don't make any commitments to them. If you feel that you just want to see how things go, allow it to run, but be very cynical. Don't get into the romantic stuff. Don't be blinded by the charm. Don't be blinded by all the promises, because I'm telling you now, they are false. These people are wonderful liars. You cannot tell. You cannot tell if they are lying. In my survivors group that I attending, there was a policewoman, and she said that she couldn't tell, and with all her training, and she felt absolutely ashamed that she couldn't tell family or friends or colleagues that she was being abused. So even the most educated and whoever you might be, you may be the wisest person on earth, you can get duped by these liars and be drawn into a relationship that'll end up with that is quite abusive. So please, if you feel this relationship's not right, be very, very careful. Well, thank you for your company and spending the time to watching this video. As I said, that I'll be sharing more videos of this nature in future. So if you want to subscribe to get updates on this, because your wellness matters, and domestic abuse affects the health of your mind, body and your spirit, and this is what this channel is concerned about. This is what I am concerned about, to help you to be well. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.